excited today because behind me I have my brand new TS Optics Photon F5. Why is your head cut off, Sam? It's so that I could fit the box, part of the box, in the picture. It's actually quite tall. Very, very excited about it, and it's great. It's Tuesday. I got my coronavirus booster shot yesterday, and I feel like crap. And this weekend, I went out to the woods, and well, I'm going to put probably another video together about this, but I broke my duo narrowband clip-in filter trying to get it set up. So my very first foray into astrophotography was an epic failure, and ruined my weekend in the woods. One other thing before I jump into an unboxing of this thing is that I noticed in my previous videos that a whole bunch of people watched. I'm just making these for myself and friends and family and whatever, and throwing them up on YouTube, of course, in case anybody finds them interesting. And I realized like 90 people had seen the previous video after the first day that it was published. And I also noticed that somebody was like, bloop, thumbs down. And well, one, I don't really care, so I'm not doing this for thumbs up or thumbs down. But the other thing is that if you're watching this, you should know this whole beginner's journey. It's my journey. I'm the beginner. I'm just learning as I go, and I know nothing about astrophotography. So if you're here looking for some sort of comprehensive understanding of what it is I'm about to pull out of this box, this is not the video for you. But if you are interested in a genuine reaction of one human being's how they see this thing for the first time, it's my first telescope, you know, if you're interested in that, then yeah, please keep watching. But I certainly don't want to give anybody any false impressions about this being an unboxing and I'm having all sorts of technical information. So that being said, I'm going to open my very first telescope. It's super exciting. I've never even looked through a telescope before. I've never touched one. And now I have a TS Optics Photon F5. That means 1,000 millimeters of focal length. That means 203 millimeters of aperture. I should be able to see something through this thing and eventually take a picture. Let's see what's in the box. So here we have a large tube. It's pretty cool. I'm a little intimidated, to be completely honest. I mean, it's not necessarily due to the size. I think even if I was getting, I don't know, something really small, and I think I would still be kind of like, how do I touch this thing? You know, and I'm sure, you know, me watching this years from now, I'm going to laugh at myself. But yeah, it's just, maybe it's after breaking a filter over the weekend, I'm sort of like, do I want to touch anything astrophotography related? Am I going to break it? But that's the whole point of doing this, right? Got to learn. So I'm just going to start pulling things out of this box, and if I know what it is, I'll say. If I don't know what it is, I'm going to tell you I don't know what it is, and that's just the way that it goes. Okay, so in here we're looking at, okay, so this is the power box. It takes 8 AA batteries. This power hooks up to a fan which cools down the mirror on the back of the telescope, so that you can get the mirror to be the outside temperature, the same as the outside temperature, a little bit faster than if you just put it out there and wait. This is the extension tube. So this is for the focuser. Yeah, and this will go in to help achieve proper back focus, if I remember correctly. And that's important also, otherwise you can't see anything or take pictures of anything. This is for the finder scope. So in addition to this very large telescope, there's a little tiny telescope that goes in here so that you can look at a wider field of view and sort of turn the telescope into a position that gets it relatively close to whatever it is you're trying to look at or photograph. That's the use of this one, and then you can fine tune it later. All right, so next box. This is the rail, and this rail basically attaches to the bottom of the telescope. Okay, I've got to find whatever that was. Attaches to, it's going to be one of these little tiny screws. Great, don't drop these. Anyway, this attaches to the bottom of the telescope, and then this part goes into the mount, which I guess is not on the screen at the moment, and that's how you connect the telescope to the mount. That's what that's for. This is the guide scope, and I'm assuming that at some point this is going to be the actual first telescope I ever looked through before I looked through the big one. So this is a 8x50 millimeter finder scope. Not a guide scope, finder scope. Man, I hope it always feels like Christmas when you open up new astro gear. Okay, that must be the instruction manual. These are the rings that hold the telescope to the mount via the rail. So this will go around the scope itself and attach to the rail I showed earlier. And that rail goes into the mount, which you can't see on the screen. And of course, then you're attached to the mount. But also, these are designed so that you can slide the scope up and down to achieve the balance that is necessary for it to be perfectly balanced. So there's actually I think it's not really felt, but there's like a soft inner lining to these so that you can slide it nicely. So what's left? All right. How do I even touch this thing? Let's find out. There is the screw I dropped earlier. I'm not going to waste any time putting that back where it belongs. Alrighty then. This is a telescope. What? And there it is. TS Optics Photon. And for me, it's going to be tomorrow when I put this together, but for you, it'll be in 2 seconds. Well, yesterday was pretty brutal with the booster shot for coronavirus, I have to say. Today I'm feeling 80% better than yesterday. Still feeling it in my sinuses, but what are you gonna do? Gotta play your part. So, yeah, I have not watched what I recorded yesterday, so I'm hoping that the unboxing was something usable. I'm pretty sure the camera angle was a little crappy. The camera being over here, me being over there, and I was just really excited to open the telescope the day that it arrived, and so I really just wanted to dive in, touch everything and feel everything, or I was kind of afraid to touch everything, but it was there, so I had to do it. Today though, I want to see about putting the scope on the mount. So that means putting it all together, getting it all set up, and then, yeah, having the full setup. I've got all the gear here. 10 days of rain and clouds, of course. Still 20 days of nothing but light here in Helsinki, so actually it doesn't really matter that much. Was kind of thinking about getting the moon, but not going to happen. All right, so I guess without further ado, I'm going to put this thing on the mount. Fun times, no manual. So this beginner is gonna go by pictures. I'm pretty sure I know where everything goes. It's kind of logical where at least some of these things are supposed to go, and maybe it's part of the learning process. I'm a little annoyed that there's no manual, and yeah, so I'm just gonna wing it. That's the best way, isn't it? I guess that this is the camera where you can see my face. As you can see, the mount is over here. The camera where we're going to get some closer shots is over here. And then the OTA optical tube assembly is here. And I also have the box of gear down here that I'm going to use to put it all together. So you can't see the box, but that's all right. I'm going to hold up everything and talk about what it is and where I think it's going to go. And that's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to start with the rings because the rings are what's going to attach to the rail, and the rail is going to be what attaches to the mount. So I'm going to start there and see what else I need to do. So let's take a look at the rings. So the rings should open up and just sort of go all the way around it. I don't see a way of sliding them on. And we'll just kind of inspect these real quick so whatever mistakes I make are minimized. Okay, so this guy here looks like it flips up. You kind of like loosen it and then it flips up. Yep, cool. I like it. Okay, put it back down and you tighten it, and that's gonna be how we put it on here. On this side, there's one screw, and on this side, there's 3 screws. So I'm assuming that lines up with the rail somehow. So before I even put it on here, I'm going to figure out how I'm going to attach the rail to it and then what position that needs to be in. So I'm going to take a look at the rail next. Yeah, and actually even before I do that, yesterday when I was unboxing, one of those little screws fell out, and I'm going to just drop it back in there because it bothers me that it's not in there. Pretty cool how this dust cap on the OTA also acts as a holder for all your stuff. Actually, there's only one screw currently in this rail. There's 4 positions for them, and there's 4 of those screws. So I'm actually going to put all 4 of those on first. Do you like how I started with the rings? That's how quickly we learn what you can start with and what you can't. And that's okay with me. This is not a race. And I'm only giving them a couple twists, just enough to hold them in so they don't fall out like in yesterday's take of the video. So now we have all 4. All 4 screws are in here. And as anybody watching can tell, we have our 1, 2, 3 position on each side of this. There's also these 3 screw holes here, but the 3 are going to line up with that 3. So that's the side that needs to be facing down. So what is down? As I learned the hard way, if you watched my mount video where I was putting the eye guider on the mount, it's good to identify what is down. So I'm going to identify what is down, and I'm thinking the logo of the Photon should be right side up. So that means that I want the screw holes to be facing down. I'm going to want the mechanism to so I can I guess put it either way. I don't see any markings as to why I might need to put it one way or the other. So I'm guessing that if I want the mechanism to be anywhere, it would be on the right hand side because I'm right-handed. I don't know. Maybe another one of those things that I'm going to learn the hard way. I also don't know what the right position for this should be. As far as in terms of the way that we're looking at it right now, the height, I don't know where it's supposed to go. So I'm just going to take a good guess. One towards the top, one towards the bottom, whatever that means. And then I'm going to adjust later. I'm going to just use my hand here to hand tighten this until it feels like, okay, that feels pretty sturdy. This is plastic, this piece. Don't want to break that. So, but it feels like it's pretty sturdy in place. Doesn't feel like that's going to go anywhere. So pretty happy about that. I'm happy with that. So next I'm going to add the second ring to the tube, but I'm only going to put it on loosely because we have to attach the rail to these rings, and I need to be able to move at least one of them around. I'm going to change this just a little bit so I can see here. I'm going to try to get it as close as I can to lined up with this. And I just realized also the beautiful part about this is that the rings will always be this far apart from each other. So I don't have to guess at least that distance. So that's nice. One thing I'm also going to do before I put this on is I'm going to see which end. I think it's this end has to go into the mount, but I'm going to just check and make sure. So this guy is the second ring. It's going to go towards the bottom. I have done this before, one time. Yep, yeah, I can see that it's backwards. I can see that. Everybody calm down. That's why it's a beginner's journey. That's why. Okay, so it's somewhere around there. Now I've got it close. It's close, so now I'm going to try to line it up a bit better so that I can then tighten it. Okay, so it has to come down a little and up just a hair. So I think what might be smart is to actually start to attach it while this is still loose. I'm going to attach it to this one first, of course, but then I can make any final adjustments. So I'm just going to check now to see which end goes into the mount. Okay, yep, that was pretty obvious, but, you know, as a beginner, I just want to be sure. You never know. So this is going to go on just like that. And in case you were wondering, the dust cap did have a couple of scratches in it already, so I'm not that worried. And I can also imagine how often I'm going to use this in this way, so I'm not terribly concerned about some micro scratches going in there. All right. Just gonna check one more time to see no real front or back designations, no arrows on here. It looks pretty symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which one is going here and which one goes there. So I'm going to start by doing it by hand. The right way. Let's do it the right way, Sam. We just checked this. Okay, so that one's in. I'm leaving it a little loose just in case I need some wiggle room. Bring it down just a little bit. Okay. So now both of those are in. It seems like they're not on any kind of angle. So then I'm going to screw them in. And there's these little notches in here for the smaller screws. I'm not sure. Maybe they help stabilize. I'm not entirely sure what their purpose is. It doesn't seem like they would do anything more than make it so that it doesn't really move around. So maybe it's because it's so heavy, it's just sort of like, okay, these hold it in and these hold it really, really still. That's what I would guess. I don't actually know. Now I'm going to tighten these. I'm going to do a little at a time just because it makes me nervous when things are that tight already. And I've noticed now there's a little bit of movement with this ring here. So maybe now is a good time to tighten the ring a bit more. That really, it makes me nervous how much strength this requires. Not because I can't do it, just because I think of these instruments as so fragile that, you know, when you really put some muscle into it, you can easily break these things, as I found out the hard way with my clip-in filter. It's interesting, the bottom is also tight, but I can see a little bit of gap here on the side. All right, no more gap. That guy is on there. That's pretty interesting. Now these tiny screws, there's no way that they're going to be able to take the amount of strength that was required to get these two main screws in here. It feels very sturdy, by the way. I should maybe talk about that. It definitely now feels like one piece here. These are now tight all the way. I tightened them as I was going. So now I'm just gonna turn these until reasonably tight, I guess. And then I'm gonna give them one little nudge for good luck. Well, that's that. No extra parts. That's surprising. And yeah, that feels really solid. Now we've attached the rings and the rail. And what's left are the extension tube, the mount for the finder scope, the finder scope itself, and the power box for all of the batteries for the fan. So I think what that means is that I'm now in a position to actually put the telescope onto the mount. So just one more quick check. And yeah, I think we're a go for launch. Is now a good time to tell you that I'm a little bit nervous about doing this? Okay, good. All right, so here we have the mount. The mount is the iOptron GEM, GEM28. I'm just going to say GEM. I like it better, even though I know it stands for German Equatorial Mount. It's the GEM28, the guide scope, the auto guider camera in here that we put on in a previous video, just checking to make sure they're tight. So what I'm going to do here is, I guess, lift this up, stick it in here. I've already adjusted this so that it's sitting flush, so it should fit in there. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to tighten this. Hopefully I don't break it, tightening it nervously tight, but whatever it is that I consider reasonable is what I'm going to do there. And then stand here nervously while I wait for it to fall off because I've done something wrong. The whole thing is locked. The this is locked and this is locked. So it shouldn't be turning this way. It shouldn't. This is not turning, obviously, and this is not turning. So I'm pretty sure everything needs to be locked so that when you're trying to get it on there, things aren't swinging all over the place. And then, then we'll have a telescope on a mount. I'm hoping to laugh at myself a few years from now watching this. Okay, so I have the telescope on the mount. It seems like it's sitting a little low, in my opinion, but what do I know? But I've got a feeling, well, of two things. One is I think it's probably going to have to be centered a bit better. Actually, maybe it's close to okay. I actually don't know any of this stuff, so what do I know? The other thing is that this is kind of heavy, so I'm wondering if I'm going to need the extension tube when I try to balance this. But we'll see. Either way, we have a telescope on a mount. And that's pretty cool. If I imagine myself using this, I'm thinking maybe it would turn a bit more. I would turn it so that I would have it probably higher on the tripod. So that solves the height thing for my height. But then maybe I would have the focuser on this side. So I think I may loosen these a little bit, twist the tube a bit, and then lock it into place. So I'm actually going to do that right away because I'm pretty sure I'm going to want that. And yes, I'm going to do it very, very carefully while holding the tube the whole time. And so on these rings also, there's the ability to attach something here. So I think I'm going to leave just a little bit of room there. I mean, the guide scope goes here. Sorry, the finder scope goes here. So maybe if there was something, I don't have anything that would do that I would need to have here. But if there's something, that at least there's that room. I guess I could always adjust it again later also. Are we sturdy again? Yeah. Cool. Does it bother anybody that it just clamps in there like that? It's not going to slide. You really have to trust that it's not going to just slide out of here. I'm guessing there's probably some pieces you can put in there that sort of hold it in place. There's grooves in the mount itself, and maybe you could have something in that rail that sort of sticks out and sticks into the groove, so even if it did slide, it wouldn't actually slide all the way to the ground. But I'll look into that later because I don't really know anything about anything. I'm not gonna do the balancing at the moment because right now what we're doing is putting together the Photon. So I'm going to next do the finder scope. I'm going to adjust the whole setup so that it's on camera. All right, so this is the shoe for the finder scope mount. I'm going to pull this out of the way a little bit, still in there, so it's not going to get lost. Then I'm going to grab the mount, put it on there. The mount conveniently has a little square piece here to show me which side is which. Thank you for that. Because in here, there's a little notch. I don't know if there's enough contrast, but there's a notch there. So this should slide right in here and stop exactly where it's supposed to go. Yes, it does. This is made for people like me. This is good. That is in there. Now I'm going to make some room for the finder scope itself. Just going to take that till it's flush. I don't know what's right or wrong with that. It also helps to pay attention to what you're doing, because that is not a screw. 2 screws. 2 screws and a guide to hold it into place. Okay. The guide scope is here. It's actually really light, which bothers me a little bit. Feels like I'm going to break it. Okay, that's not true. It's metal, but it's still a little nerve-wracking. Maybe it's just because I'm a beginner. It feels unusually light. I have nothing to compare it to except for this big boy. There are some divots in here. I don't know if divots is the right word. Little tiny notches. One here and a thicker one here. And I'm guessing that the push pin is going to lock maybe this one into place. I'm going to see. Yeah, okay, so it was the first one. I'm wondering if it could move back to the second one if we wanted it to. Not really. It's this first one. It's that first one, and so that guy's in. I'm going to keep it on one side just in case anything ever moves. The logo, which I'm seeing is not on camera, I guess I'm going to, I think it's fun to see it, so I'm going to have that facing the eyepiece. And then I'm just going to tighten these guys here. I'm not doing it tight, even though I can see that it's moving. Just tight enough, because the other piece had already kind of locked it into place. And it's not so vital that this one doesn't move, although it's not moving. It's not so vital that this one stays perfect, because it's just about generally finding what you're looking for in the sky. And it's got a very wide field of view. So as long as you get generally in the right place, and then I will learn the nuance of how to use it with the scope and the setup. Let me see now if I can work with the battery compartment, and if so, I'm going to see if I can flip this or turn this in a way where I can show it on camera. I'm going to unlock whatever access this is. I'm going to unlock that. I'm going to hold everything very carefully just in case, and then I'm going to twist it up and show you what I'm working with here. Wow, that glides so easily. Okay, so what we're looking at here, this is the fan on the back of the mirror at the bottom of the OTA, the tube. And this battery compartment plugs in here. I'm not that excited about it being batteries, by the way. I'm probably going to figure out another solution pretty quickly to that. 8 AA batteries seems like a little excessive to me. But if it's a good fan, at least for the time being, that's good. So I'm going to plug this in there. Done. I don't understand really where this is supposed to go now. DIY from the TS Photon department. There needs to be some solution to this, so we're going to see at some point. That, and then there's the extension tube. The extension tube is the last piece here. This has a loose screw. Don't we all? And that's supposed to go into the eyepiece, and while I have no reason to do that at the moment, because this is a video about putting all of this stuff together, why not stick it in there and see what happens. So I'm gonna unlock this and turn it upright again. So this is the focuser. Pretty cool. It focuses. I like the reducer. That's really nice that it's there. This is loose. I guess that there's another one here that comes loose, and that then comes out. Okay, so this, I guess, looks like the 2-inch, but it's a focal extender, isn't it? Is this not 2 inches? This probably fits right in here. Does it? No, not exactly, and I'm not going to force it. Well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to mess around with it too much. But yeah, this, at least we know, fits in here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The TS Optics Photon 8-inch f5 sitting on top of an iOptron Gem 28, waiting to be balanced. And for all of the other wonderful accessories that I have sitting in a box right now to be added to it. I'm taking a strategic approach to how I'm adding those items so that I can learn each one of them one at a time, understand them a little bit better. This particular video, I opened just one box of the entire OTA and all of its accessories, which felt like a lot. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to filming a few more for you in the near future. Till next time.